and then some more.
Okay.
I was home with my wife. I said I am so mad.
Should one of us leave? Then we don't have a quorum.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to begin our meeting.
Everyone says, stay in there, run again.
We are ready to start, so we'll begin by standing for a moment of silence, and then we'll follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, this is the second of a two-part session on our budget setting workshop. And last night we got through numbers 1 through 7. That brings us up to our point 8, which is bonding and capital projects. First item on it is bonding capacity debt. Are you speaking to that, or?
Thank you, Mayor. So I'd like to introduce Scott Stevenson from D.A. Davidson. You've already met him several times, but welcome back.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So you should have a couple items linked on your agenda, and I'm here to just kind of give a quick overview on the city's debt capacity. Not only, where it stands today, you're budgeting for FY 23-24, so I think, more of a forward-looking debt capacity projection is kind of what I wanted to talk about today, as well as just give an update on where municipal bond rates are. I know you don't have any immediate borrowing needs, but it's always nice to know kind of where things stand in relation to where they've been historically. Sometimes that's useful from a planning perspective as well. So kind of first thing, your city's projection of legal debt capacity. This is really a spreadsheet I've brought to City Council a number of times over the last 10, 15 years since I've been coming up here, but it works from left to right by showing what the valuation has been historically, as well as kind of a forward-looking projection, what the calculated legal debt limit of the city is. So interestingly, this coming budget year, the city will eclipse $400 million in actual value, which equates to a $20 million debt capacity. So it'll be the first time in the city's history that you'll have that kind of debt capacity space to work with. As you move from left to right, then you see the outstanding debt obligations as they exist, and there's room for projected debt. Currently have nothing in there, and that leads us to what the total debt is against the city's debt limit and what remains. So when we look at FY 23-24, the city will have just slightly over $10 million of debt outstanding against that $20 million in debt capacity, so you're kind of right at effectively about half of your legal debt limit being utilized in FY 23-24. Leaves plenty of room, obviously, for new projects should you have items you're contemplating. I know there are, but they're probably a little bit further off in the future, not immediate, but just wanted to at least convey that that's where you stand now as you look forward into your, both your FY 23-24 and as you evaluate your CIP plans that probably look out more in a 5 to 10 year range. This should give you some sense for where you stand and what the future looks like as well. Any questions on that?
I guess, is there a magic number that people look for as far as where they think cities ought to be?
No. There's thresholds where I think people would say that they would get concerned that the city could put themselves in an impaired situation as it relates to their creditworthiness. But the city, Sheldon is not remotely close to that kind of constraint. I think when you look at debt metrics from a national level, really the state's debt limit at 5% of valuation is relatively constrictive. So even if you were to go to 100% of your debt limit from a constitutional debt authority standpoint, it really wouldn't put you in a position that I think creditors would view the city as being impaired. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a great idea. I mean, this debt limit is there for a reason. It's, you know, it's something to be conscious of. Even if a creditor wouldn't consider you impaired, you don't want to get all the way to that point and then have something else come up that was unforeseen, right? Your water tower, you have a tornado go through town and you've got major infrastructure requirements that weren't insured, something like that. I mean, you know, not likely to happen, but you want to leave yourself some breathing room in the event there were to be an event like that. I think, you know, 75 to 80% is kind of commonly a threshold that people look to, you know, try to hover around if they can. I think you can get a lot lower than that in some communities that are very wealthy are able to, but for the most part, that's uncommon. Usually the communities that have no debt are communities that aren't really doing a lot and probably are experiencing population declines. And
Curious because we've been there, and we've worked to try and get it down from there. A few
Yeah,
years
that's a good
ago,
thing.
we were at 90 plus, so.
yeah, that's right. And you do have some debt rolling off. So, you know, I'll point to the 2013 bonds had been partly paid down with TIF dollars years ago, but there was a portion of it that related to some general street infrastructure that wasn't TIF eligible. That is paying off June 1 of 2023. So in your budget year, you will no longer be making a payment on that bond. 2017, there was a refinance of some 2011 debt and some additional infrastructure that is payable by debt service levy. That is paid off in FY 24-25. So, you know, have a couple more years of payments left on it, but that'll roll off as well. So, you know, debt capacity is one thing, but also cash flow is another thing. And I think, you know, you've also got some freed up cash flow capacity in the coming years, which is a good thing as well. So, good flexibility, I guess, is the point. That's the message.
Any recommendations in terms of moving forward here? I mean, borrow more, don't be just...
No, I think, you know, it's tough to, typically folks have a balancing act between managing your infrastructure needs based on what you're able to do versus what you need to do, right? I mean, generally it's the needs drive what you end up borrowing for, so it's hard for me to come in here and say, yeah, you should borrow $4 million. Well, why? We don't have any projects we're looking to do, right? So I think if you've got infrastructure needs, you certainly have the capacity to do so, to borrow, both from a debt limit standpoint as well as from a cash flow standpoint, but you know, that's contingent on what your needs are.
Mm-hmm.
I think, you know, I guess along those lines, the next item I'd point to is this 10-year historical graph of where municipal bond interest rates have been. You can see, you know, rates have dipped significantly in the last 4 months, but we're towards the higher end of the range. When you look back 10 years, rates spiked really hard in 2022 in municipal bond world. You know, we came into the year at all-time historical lows and more or less went up the entire year. Things have come back down off that in a fairly significant fashion, but nonetheless, we're not at the same kind of borrowing cost metrics that we saw for 21 and 22 when we did lock in some substantial finance for the city. So I think you can kind of count your blessings from that standpoint, in the sense that you've taken on some projects, you've got some things done, and you've been able to do it at effectively a sub 2% borrowing cost, and that's a really good thing. Those days are gone for now, but you know, we're not at a catastrophic interest rate environment now either. I think, you know, run some projections for some other folks, and you can still borrow money for 3% or less on a, you know, kind of a 10-year time horizon, which is historically not exactly a high interest rate, but it's higher than what we've experienced in, you know, the last 3 or 4 years.
And we always ask you the question that you can never answer. What are we looking at? How are our prospects?
Yeah, I mean, fair question. I will give you the same caveat I always do. I don't know. That's the reality of the situation. But I think, you know, if you wanted to hear what most of the economists are saying now, is that there's a significant risk of recession in 2023. In the event there is a recession, the inflationary pressure that we've experienced will subside as a result, because in a recession, people tend to lose their jobs and things like that. Buying power, and if they have less buying power, prices will react accordingly. If that is to happen, the expectation is rates will pivot and turn around and go lower. I think you've already seen some of that in terms of market reaction, even though when you turn on the news and you hear what the Federal Reserve is saying and doing, they're not talking about lowering rates, but the market is anticipating that that's likely to come sometime in 2023. Whether it does or not, I don't know, but that's kind of the current thinking, is that rates may very well head lower as we go through 2023 in response to challenging economic conditions.
All right. Anyone else? Okay.
Can you identify for us the callable, the debt on the sheet that's callable in the next several years?
I think the 2017 bonds are callable now. The 2013 bonds are paying off in a few months, so that's not really of much relevance. The 2017 B issue that was for the wastewater treatment plant, I believe, is callable in 2025, going off memory, but I'm pretty confident that's the case, which is, I believe, 1 year sooner than the sewer revenue bonds that were also issued for that project. So that was a more substantial borrowing, around $8 million at the time, over a 30-year amortization. So there's a lot of remaining debt outstanding on that issue. I don't think it's callable until 2026. And obviously the debt that was issued just in the last couple of years is, still a good 5-6 years out from being callable. So not a lot to really pick on from that standpoint. But the 2017 Bs are only a couple of years out from being refinanceable or callable with cash.
So the 27B, I'm sorry I didn't ask you this on the phone earlier today, but the 2017B note, if we wanted to pay some of it off, would you have to pay, if it's callable, can you, let's say, put $1 million down on it?
Yeah.
And then recalculate the balance?
Yep.
Is that how that works?
100%. Yep. So once you hit that call date, you have kind of unlimited flexibility to do whatever you want in terms of calling all of it, a portion of it. You call next year's payment and leave the next 10 years behind that out there, or you can call bonds off the back end of the payment schedule. So you can kind of do whatever you want.
Is that like a calculation, or is that set with every single bond issue that they, depending on the amount of money your call date is adjusted? Or is it as a percentage?
There's, standard, and then there's variances you can do from standard, but, the 2017B, for example, was a 20-year bond issue, which is pretty common or standard to have an 8 or 10-year call feature built into that, meaning you can call the bonds 8 to 10 years from the time of issuance. Shorter amortizations typically have a little bit shorter call provision, but that ranges anywhere from 5 to 8 years, I would say, is pretty standard. Minimum of 5, but no more than 10 is basically industry standard. Other questions?
I think we're good. Thank you, Scott.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for coming.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, folks. Good luck with the budgeting process.
It's too bad your drive time exceeds your presentation time, but we appreciate it.
I'm going to backtrack just a minute here. Now that everybody's here, we didn't take roll call, I realize. So I'm going to take roll call here before we move on to our next item.
Pete Hamill,
Here.
Ken Snyder,
Here.
Brad Hint,
Here.
Wayne Barahona,
I'm here now.
Tom Eggers.
All right. Thank you. Let's move on then to item B, the capital projects.
Mayor, I would like to take a minute to talk about something I'm struggling with here a little bit in our process.
Okay.
I'm concerned that we don't have a full council here for some of these things, but hopefully we can get through some of them yet tonight. But in my looking at it, I'm afraid it might turn into a breakfast meeting. And so I would like to propose that at some point we can approve the basic budget, excluding a few items, and possibly deal with them in some workshops or retreats or meetings or whatever you want to call them, but I would propose that we consider, depending on how far we get here, approving a basic budget excluding the local option sales tax things unless we get through that. And there's a couple of memos that we've had as far as first responder recruitment and retention, and another one on wages and proposed increases. Those are things I'd like to exclude, but then we talk about what I'm allowed to do, and in talking to Angie, evidently anything to do with benefits and wage and hours has to be dealt with on a more timely basis before it gets certified. So that changes my wishes as usual. So, but at any rate, I wouldn't object to allowing ourselves more time for some discussion on some of these things.
I guess Angie or Sam, do you have any concerns about that? You've obviously talked to Pete then today.
Yeah, he was in today. I wanted to clarify, because I think Todd was a little, he didn't understand me the way I intended last night. As far as what I have to have is anything that has to do with wages and benefits. So when I go to publish the max levy hearing, that includes the general, which is maxed, emergency, which is maxed, employee benefits, which is the big deal breaker. Okay, we can publish that including the whole kitchen sink, whatever you want with the trust and agency or the employee benefits. Then if you want to, after that, trim it back before I actually certify the budget, which is hopefully the first meeting in March, you can trim it back. You just can't certify more than you published in your max levy hearing. But any of the benefits, they have to be decided before we certify the budget, which is due March 31, because you cannot go, whatever we certify, whatever you guys tell me, if it's the whole kitchen sink, the property taxes or the property owners are paying for it. We're going to collect those dollars. So I just want to make sure, is that clear? Okay. Okay.
Any additional comments from you, Sam? Okay, then I'll open up the council. Your thoughts on Pete's proposal?
I'll agree, I didn't get a full understanding of it and need some more input. I'm still learning this budget stuff to begin with. And then looking it over, I was hoping to learn something as we were talking.
Yeah. And you do. The discussion, that always helps.
Yes. So while you're thinking about the path, what you might want to do,
Real close, Sam.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
While you're thinking about the path forward, what you might want to do is move down to item D under, or 9D. We could briefly do a rundown of the other requests in local option sales tax. You have a few people here to speak, and I can run down the memos for those who aren't here and just briefly describe. We could do that while you're thinking about the next step.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we should do that.
Sounds reasonable.
We gotta hack away at this one way or another, so let's start hacking.
That means we've got people here that are, waiting to speak. That's probably a good idea for them too then, so.
Yeah, so I don't
Great.
see anybody here on that list except for NCC right now, so maybe we could start with Greta and Dr. H.
Everyone's in agreement here. Now is your time to speak up if you're not comfortable with how we're going to move forward here.
Well, I still think that we should still be discussing, I mean, we're here,
Yes.
this is part of the process. I think we need to be discussing this other stuff too.
Absolutely.
If we don't want to put our final stamp on it, that's fine, but we can't just keep kicking this can down the road.
Basically, you're saying we don't want to back ourselves into a hole this afternoon. Give us a little bit more time.
Correct.
Yeah.
You gonna start at the top, or do you want to start
I've been
with
there and I don't
NCC?
like it. So,
I would say start with NCC. They're raring to go. So. Hello, Greta.
Hi, everyone. Do I need to introduce myself for the record or anything?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Dr. Greta Geese from Northwest Iowa Community College. I'm the Recreation Center Director. I think everybody here knows me, but thank you for having us, and thank you for your continued support of the LLRC and of our partnership. NCC sees this partnership as a win-win, since as with many things in Sheldon, together we can do more and we can be more. Through this partnership, the city has usage of a first-rate facility for all of its recreation programming, and as well as many special events. And the college is able to mitigate operational expenditures, maintain that first-rate facility for community programs and events, college youth, and community members' wellness goals. And so I just wanted to be here today to thank you again for that support and be here to answer any questions that you have.
Are there any timelines on this?
In terms of a commitment?
I'm sorry?
As far in terms of a commitment,
Yes.
how long?
It's an annual,
This is an annual renewal.
it's currently an annual agreement.
Oh, okay.
We originally had a 15-year agreement with 10 years of funding, and that agreement expires this coming year.
Okay. Well, certainly appreciate the things that happen out there, and I don't use it as much as I should, obviously, but
You know where to find us,
that's
Pete.
my fault.
We're there.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. It's not specifically council related, but it is near and dear to my heart currently. Perhaps you could just give a little summary of what's going on with Live Healthy Iowa and what the college is doing.
It's near and dear to my heart too, Greg. Yes, so we are a few weeks into our 10-week annual Live Healthy Northwest Iowa health and wellness competition. I say competition, but it's really less about competing against each other as it is with challenging ourselves to live healthier in the new year. We have over 100 participants. We have 23 teams participating this year, which is up from last year. Overall, we're seeing in general at the rec center kind of that uptick and that move away from the COVID days of low attendance and low memberships. We're really thrilled with the rate of revenue, the rate of memberships, and the overall attendance. So yes, so we're a few weeks into Live Healthy Northwest Iowa. We've got some great community sponsors from local businesses, and we've got great participation, such as Mayor Gales and myself. Reminds me, and Justin. They're probably all beating me, even though I should be the one winning. But yeah, thanks for asking, Greg.
Well, and currently they're in third place, but they have been in. We have one of the teams that is part of the NCC that is leading the state in terms of average minutes. The walkie-talkies.
The walkie-talkies. And I have to brag, those are NCC employees, so they are rocking it and representing us well.
They are currently averaging 2,165 minutes.
I will tell a tale on one of the participants. It is our student activities coordinator. So if our student activities coordinator isn't getting that many minutes of activity, we're probably concerned out at the college. But yeah, we have great participation.
No. So, anyone else? Questions for Greta? I echo what Pete said. We value the partnership we have with you. It's been a win-win from day one, so.
Well, I've certainly benefited from it personally and professionally. You can find me out there most Saturdays coaching my own kids, so
Great.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you, Greta.
Okay.
John, were you hoping to address the council as well? Sure. All right.
I'm John
Greta.
Hertog,
There you
college president. Just to add to what Greta said, the college does believe that our partnership with the city produces a significant value. It would be difficult to replicate. It is a state-of-the-art facility, makes the college better. We also believe it makes the city better, and we value this partnership. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now let's jump back up to the top of the request under item D, under 9D there, starting with rides.
Okay, so I see Larry is here to talk about golf, so I'll hit rides first, and then we'll move into golf. So rides, if you want to open up the memo, Cindy Voss reached out to me today. She's the assistant director, and they're unable to make it. She said that this support means a lot to them and a lot to the village. If you look at the second paragraph from the bottom, 8,300 rides, and quite a few of them were for Village Northwest residents and clients. The way the agreement is written is Barry Witzel is a signatory on the agreement, so that holds rides accountable to them. So we're doing this. We're doing this for rides too, but the main reason is to do this for the village and their residents. So that cost used to be out of local option sales tax, and it is the last few years has been coming out of TIF, which is allowable under state code. Any questions on that? Same amount as last year. Okay. We have Larry here.
Thank you. Larry Smith from the Sheldon Golf Course. Just want to thank you for your past support. Probably asking for a little bit more than we have in the past has...
Just for clarification, everyone, Larry is here representing the golf course. We moved into that one.
Thanks.
Sorry, go ahead.
No problem. Of course, we have lots of things going on out there, and we've had lots of growth. We submitted a letter, I don't know if everyone's seen that, but over the past 5 years or so, we've increased membership from about 122 to 187 members. Good community facility, have a good staff, got lots of exciting things going on. Lots of different areas we affect, youth, all the way through elderly out on our course, and we have seen growth. And excuse me, as our facilities age, of course, we need to spend some money. So this year we're hoping to upgrade the cart sheds, and I believe we're asking for a portion of that to help us cover that, and then we'll be fundraising the rest. So any support we can get, we greatly appreciate. Any questions? Again, thank you for your support.
Just for clarification, you're asking that 7,000 is those needs that are listed, and that was, so 8,000 would go towards the 30,000?
Last year's.
That's the last year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there you go. There, that's good.
All right, so this is,
We requested 15,000 for the repairs of the cart sheds and
okay,
facilities out there.
all right.
Anything else?
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for your support.
Thank you, Larry. Mid-Sioux Opportunity.
Thank you, Mayor. Mid-Sioux Opportunity, they serve Sioux County residents who are in Sheldon, and they have a relatively small request. It's been $250 annually for some time. Request speaks for itself.
Any questions? Moving on then to Children's World.
Children's World, Kurt, kind of springing this on you. You want to talk a little bit about what's been happening out there and how much this has meant to them?
So I think they provided an annual recap of their year, and I think when we first approved this agreement, you know, childcare in this community is precious, right? We need it. The waiting list as of about a year ago was about 53 kids, and staffing was a huge concern. This allocation has helped them with staff recruitment and retention. Their waiting list, the last time I heard, was under 5, if none. A lot of that has to do with them being able to open up some additional rooms, additional staffing. So their appreciation to the city has been exponential. And so these are dollars well spent. We talk about economic development, workforce development and recruitment. We need childcare, we need daycare to be able to facilitate that growth. So it goes beyond just Children's World. I've, my business visits with some of our larger employers, they certainly appreciate the investment from our city council for the investment into Children's World, because without our community daycare, we'd be struggling. So dollars well spent. My opinion, that's just me coming from my role, but people I've been talking to too, there's a genuine appreciation for it. So.
Any questions or comments about Children's World? All right, moving on then to O'Brien County Economic Development Committee, whatever the C stands for. Maybe you want to speak to that too, or? Sure.
You're doing good.
So I think this is unchanged. I think it's based on per capita for population. I think it hasn't changed. I think it's a small increase being requested this year, but I will say I sit on the O'Brien County Economic Development Board of Directors too. Kiana Johnson is also going to the county supervisors and requesting an 8% bump there as well as the other communities in O'Brien County. So this isn't just specific to Sheldon. A very small increase, but O'Brien County Economic Development, less than $500 in increase. So good organization. Again, I serve on the board. Kiana does a great job. So not much change there.
Any questions on that one? NCC has been covered already. Final one on the list is Upper Des Moines Opportunity.
Upper Des Moines Opportunity, we work with them fairly frequently on past due utility bills and that type of issue. They have a well-written memo. They're asking for the same amount as before, so I don't have anything to add, Angie, unless you do.
No.
No? Okay.
Questions or comments on that one? All right. Did anyone happen to total up these 7 requests?
Well, no, because some are TIF and some are lost.
Okay. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what's your pleasure, gentlemen?
I don't see anything here that I wish to debate or remove.
So do we need a motion then to approve these requests?
Well, if you look at the memo, some of these are included and some are on the unfunded list. So, in the spreadsheet and the memo, you have
Wow. Sam,
Yeah.
why don't we tackle the TIF one first, since those are ones that are included.
oh, yeah,
Most
that makes sense.
That would be Rides, Children's World, Bryan County Economic Development, those 3. Okay. Since they are included, I would entertain a motion that we approve those requests.
So moved.
Support.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Hint.
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
Hamel?
Aye.
Farahona?
Aye.
All right. Now let's move on to the loss discussion in with these four.
Well, you have Gulf, Mid-Sioux, and NCC, and Upper Des Moines. So NCC has been, it had been down at the bottom under the request for consideration, and the unfunded section has been moved to the very bottom of the funded section underneath rec operations. This has been identified as a necessary and important partnership for recreation programming. And Todd, do you have anything to add to that?
No, just that I know that. I guess my only comment would be is we need the gym space. If we don't have that gym space, you will see a drastic cut in programming. So whether or not you see $25,000 in value in that, I guess, is what you need to decide. I can tell you our recreation department knows they need the space. We run, Sam, I think you attached an email that I sent that shows the amount of hours and days and weeks that we're out there. So I guess I'll leave it at that. If we don't have the facility, we'll cut programs. I feel the benefit of a partnership with NCC exceeds $25,000 with what they're able to provide for us, and really just the synergy that exists between not only the city and the college. So it would be my desire to see that go through at $25,000.
Yeah, I don't think it'll take very long to do them one at a time.
Okay.
Take a motion on this one.
Would you be willing to make that?
Yeah, I'll turn that to a motion. I'll move that we approve the LLRC $25,000 distribution.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second for that?
Support that.
Okay. Further discussion. Roll call, please.
Hamel?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
Farahona?
Aye.
Hint?
Aye.
All right. Let's just take them one at a time here. Let's talk about the golf course request for $15,000. I think the same argument can be made for the golf course as you can for the wellness center in terms of a economic asset to the community, draw.
I would agree with that.
And it needs some work. I'll agree with that.
Someone want to make a motion for that?
I'll move we fund the $15,000 request from the Sheldon Golf Course.
Do we have support?
I'll support.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I guess the only discussion I would wonder is, are there any alternate sources of funding? Is lost the logical source, or is TIF out of the question as far as economic development?
Well, it's not really in a district, is it?
Yeah, it's not in the urban renewal.
That's right.
It's not in the
Sorry.
urban renewal zone, and you have
Yep.
ag land between here and there that
Okay,
it's difficult to get to.
all right.
The only question I wonder if there would be, I guess the other one would maybe be hotel motel tax, but again, we run into a situation where you still have several hands in the kitty trying to get a piece of it, so it's 6 to 1, half a dozen to the other, I suppose.
All right, just curious.
I move that we approve the Mid-Sioux's request for $250.
Oh, we got to back up and have approval
Oh.
on the golf first.
Sorry, I'm excited. Let's go.
Is there any other discussion regarding this Sheldon Golf Country Club request? We have a motion, we have support. Roll call, please.
Snyder?
Aye.
Hand?
Aye.
Hamel?
Aye.
Farahona?
Aye.
Now you can make your motion for mid-Sue if you'd like.
I'll move that we approve the mid-Sue request.
Support.
Discussion?
What was that motion?
So we approve mid-Sue's request, or $250.
Yeah, yeah.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Hamel?
Aye.
Farahona?
Aye.
Hand?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
And the final one on the list is Upper Des Moines Opportunity for $3,300.
I would move that we support Upper Des Moines to $3,300.
Support.
Discussion. Roll call, please.
Snyder?
Aye.
Hamel?
Aye.
Hand?
Aye.
Farahona?
Aye.
Okay. You want to tackle capital projects, which we haven't really discussed yet now? Or you want to continue on with the discussion under 9?
We can circle back and talk about capital projects.
Okay.
There's not a whole lot to say on that. This all came forward to you on December 7. So you have the 15-year CIP and the 5-year CIP and the airport CIPs. And so those are all linked for you. And if there's any questions, I know Todd and I were talking yesterday about how we realized how important it has turned out to be. We didn't realize it at the time, but when we recommended that we fund part of the airport needs out of urban renewal and TIF, the important impact that had, not only for being able to more fully fund their needs, but it also had a positive impact on the general fund. And that's one of the reasons why our general fund is in such good condition. So, feel pretty good about that.
So in terms of the 23-24 projects that are listed, how do we determine what's in and what's out? I mean, they are not all in the budget now, currently, are they? I mean,
All the TIF items are, aren't they?
Yeah, so if I might.
yes.
So if you look at the capital projects list, there's various funding sources. You have road use tax for some of it, you have water and sewer for some of it. So I think for the purpose of today's discussion, really you have the emergency services, the police and fire capital items, which are under the lost section. And then you also have a number of items in urban renewal. So, you know, if you want, we could take a moment and go through urban renewal. It's fairly straightforward. There hasn't been a lot of questions raised or concerns raised on that. Is that all right? We'll just rattle through that.
Sure.
And then stop me if you have any questions. So we have an estimated cash balance at the end of 2024 of $166,000, and we have an estimated cash balance going into this upcoming fiscal year of 517. So, and that includes the subtraction of the first potential payment to the Bethel developers of $128,000 and change. You can see one of the bigger items there is Lewis and Clark for $450,000, and that at this next council agenda, I'm planning on having a resolution for advancement of cost to advance $250,000 from the current fiscal year and $450,000 from the next fiscal year, and we'll set a certification date of probably 2025. So I got to write that resolution, but we combine the funding from 2 fiscal years so that we can move forward with that project. So from a cash flow standpoint, you don't have $700,000 at the moment in the TIF fund, but you do have, we do have it in the combined public works funds, the ability to upfront that cost and to pay it back from TIF, which is how a resolution of advancement of costs works anyway, so that works pretty good. Any questions on that? And by moving the $250,000 from lost to TIF, that has made the upcoming discussion less painful. It is still justified under Urban Renewal Code because of the blight conditions that our current water represents, and in addition to the economic development that it serves. So,
And it's still just a percentage of the project.
that's correct. That is a very important point. Thank you for bringing that up, because with the wastewater treatment plant, it was 30% TIF. We could have done more. At the time, we chose to do 30%. That worked out. And then with the water tower, you have 80-20, 80% urban renewal. So. And there's some other items on here too. Want me to hit each one in a row, or you just want to say if you have any questions? Okay. All right. Rebates. Kurt, you want to hit that real quick?
Current or future?
Well, the 369,124, and then any upcoming ones. I think we plugged in 25,000 for upcoming ones.
I think the current ones are kind of outlined there. And then the number that's plugged in, I mean, that's a little bit of a guess. I mean, because you got to be prepared for industry, manufacturing, expansion projects, or new projects in general. So, anyway, it is what it is. I've done a good job over the years of having available bonding capacity to rebate potential projects, and it's worked out really well. I mean, we've had all of our major employers expand within the last 6 or 7 years. I think want to continue being in a position to negotiate and meet the needs of their future growth plans. So I think those dollars need to be put in there, and I think they're well spent, allocated for.
Okay. Yep. O'Brien County Economic Development, covered that one. SCDC allocation, you covered that one in your presentation yesterday. Storefront program, you've covered that one. Rides, Children's World. Blight remediation, let's focus on that one for a minute. Blight remediation is the place where we go to, for example, the Burton Johnson's old house. That's an example of how that is used. That is also the place where we are paying for part of our contract code enforcement, Steve Halgren, because roughly half of what he does, if not more, is within the urban renewal area. I think I had 150,000 for this year, so I gave that a slight haircut, and I don't think we're spending everything that's been allotted for this year. So, HC Lane, just stop me if I'm going too fast. HC Lane, we do now have good news. We have clean title. So, district court ruled just recently, and so that $30,000 is allotted per a previous agreement that the council approved at the time of sale of the final of the 4 or 5 parcels. Consultant and professional fees, that has been reduced. probably could be reduced further, but we wanted to leave something in case we needed to update the urban renewal plan. Nicole and I have been having conversations about the library. It's interesting how Iowa Urban Renewal Code is set up. There are certain parts of city government, like city halls and emergency services, that are not as eligible for urban renewal funds. I wouldn't say completely ineligible, but it's not as easy. But cultural amenities like libraries can be included. So that will require an update to do that, because the library in this block is physically not in the urban renewal area. The line runs down the middle of 4th Avenue. So, but that's something that we have talked about. But anyway, I don't plan on any significant updates this coming year, other than working through hopefully another release of TIF. I talked to the county assessor this afternoon. He's been working on data. You guys remember I told you how difficult it is to decipher the parcel numbers versus the legal descriptions. So we're working through that with him. But we do plan on a TIF release again as soon as possible.
But that's nothing that's going to affect this upcoming budget year.
No, there's a delay when you release TIF. It'd be the 200,000 approximately we can see a direct impact of the amount of TIF revenue. It's about $200,000 less. And that money now can be allocated by the other units of government, but it's taken a year to flow back. So, but it's still a positive.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, transfer part of interest to general. I'll just briefly explain that. Iowa code requires 0.05, which is 1/20th of 1%, to stay in the fund. And I received a legal opinion, that we're now getting 2.25% on that money. So we're now able to take all but 0.05 and use that to assist other funds, which has been a positive. Trees, $100,000. Todd, you want to hit this?
Yeah, that's just to get started. On Emerald Ash Borer, I've reported before that I think there's more than $1 million worth of trees in the right-of-way that need to be removed just from the ash borer. It's bigger than that, though, because, we've got more trees than just ash trees that need to go, obviously. So both Hills Park and City Park are actually in the urban renewal area. So hoping to get a good start on those two with some cottonwood and ash borer type tree removals. It's a drop in the bucket. There'll be more requests coming, but we got to start somewhere. And your guess is as good as mine how quickly the ash borer is truly going to affect our community.
Is treatment getting any more viable, or is it still too expensive?
I'm far from an arborist, Pete, but it's my understanding that treatment may or may not work, and it takes more than one treatment, and it's not been necessarily recommended to me. And I guess I want to make it very clear, the monies I'm budgeting, or I'm asking to budget, are for removal. I don't have a mitigation/replacement plan. And part of that though, I want to go back to our park surveys that we've done in the past. And what have they told us in the past? They've told us we've overpopulated our parks. So while I don't want to be known as the tree butcher, so to speak, I think we owe it to ourselves to remove, see what we have, and then reevaluate, because we have been told that we overpopulated our parks, overcluttered our parks, and taken up open space that should be used for play space. those of you that have sat through all those rec studies, I know Brad has, he's shaking his head.
Yep.
I think
Green
understand,
open
probably
space.
understand where I'm coming. And same way with the right-of-ways, the roadways are also back.
Okay, yep. Next up is City Park, ADA improvements, Americans with Disabilities Act. So there's been some curb cut changes over the last couple of years. There's some improvements that need to be made on the south side of the block, particularly that,
There's always ADA improvements we can do.
yeah.
That never end.
So this number, awfully specific, is that based on a,
No, it's not awfully specific. It's 50 grand to help us get something done. We'll get done what we...
you know what, I'm looking at the wrong line, I'm sorry. I was
Oh.
looking at the 192, 110 line
No, no.
below it, that's,
That number's specific for a reason.
okay, yep. Withdrawn.
Why don't you hit that one?
So that's money that's actually in current budget that is more carryover funds. Yesterday I talked about carrying over some funds for buying power. This would be similar situation. Combining 2 years worth, get larger project, that it can actually get some work done.
How does that work from a legal standpoint as far as carryover? Is it just something that needs to be,
Budget amendment.
okay.
Angie's good at those.
Take the next one? Yep. So general street and stormwater improvements, so this is 150,000. This line item in the last few years has been much bigger than 150,000. We've spent a lot of money on streets, mainly like Rainbow Drive, North 5th, South 3rd, Oak Street, and upcoming, or we have the traffic signal. So we're not doing as many, we're allowing things to catch up, so we're not doing as many new projects, but this $150,000 will assist with some smaller projects. For example, Brad Hint and I had a meeting with some constituents a while back on some drainage concerns. There might be an opportunity for a small partnership there to clean up some areas. There's some other areas that could be used. And so that's hasn't been specifically allocated, but it's being set aside for various endeavors. Next one is Bethel. We've already talked about that, assuming, you know, it's obviously subject to a public hearing on the developers agreement, and what's noted there is a second payment. The first payment would come out of the current fiscal year. Lewis and Clark discussed that. Town Cloud, I think we discussed that previously. That is allowable because it is for code enforcement and zoning. Half of it came from lost last year, and the other half we propose having it come from TIF, and that also helps out lost. Land purchase. Kurt, you want to hit this one?
So as you guys are aware, we bought the initial 35 acres from Grantster. We also secured options on two separate options, 35-acre options to the east and to the north. 15-year options. We are entering phase 2 of that, so we still have some time to exercise those. It doesn't have to necessarily be something that gets done in the next fiscal year, obviously, but we do have the ability in the next 10 years to exercise both of those options, and there is an escalator clause in them. So I think right now we exercise the option on either one as $35,000 an acre. If we wait for another 5 years, it'll jump to $37,500 if I remember correctly. So I think those prices, that 35,000 an acre will stay static for the next 4 fiscal year budgets that we discussed this, so it's something to think about as we're navigating this year, but more importantly as we navigate forward if we decide not to exercise an option the next fiscal year. Make sense?
This covers half of one option.
Right, yeah. It's like 1.2 million, 1.3 million. And it's subject to land exchange. It's not just a outright cash acquisition from DG Farms. It would be, if we exercise the option, we give notification, give them X amount of time to go find adequate ground that they're willing to trade us for. Similar to the process we went through when we initially acquired the ground for the co-op project.
Okay. Airport? We've covered those. Any questions on the airport? Well, there we go.
All right. So then, hotel motel tax, is that next?
Yes. Kurt, you want to, you've mentioned this before, so I don't think we need to spend a whole lot of time on it, but if you want to just run through 9C for us real quick.
So if we look at the hotel motel summary page, just the comparisons, I'll just run through that real quick. Yeah, we reported on this a couple of different times. Obviously, if you look at the historic revenue dating back from 2012, you can see that it's been a steady increase. It's been a nice revenue source for the city. And again, I always like to reiterate that these are tax dollars that aren't necessarily generated from our population. It's tourism dollars, those that are staying in our hotels. So it's really tax revenue received, the majority from the outside. If you look at 2019 was a record year, $153,000 in revenue for the city. 2020 was a COVID year. You can see the direct impacts that had. It's under $100,000 in collected revenue that year, and then you can see as 2021, last year we started rebounding back out, 123,000 in revenue. Most recently, just 2022, set another record, 166,000. The opening of Cobblestone Inn and Suites, which we're anticipating here in the spring, we certainly anticipate that setting another record in 2023. So it's been good. And it's a 7% revenue, 4% is a pass-through to SCDC for the marketing committee, and then the other 3%, I think 2% is used at the pavilion, and then 1% for parks.
Any questions on that? All right. Now it's time to get down to the brass tacks. How do you want to proceed?
Well, my suggestion would be to go through each of the unfunded requests, spend a few minutes talking about each one. Don't make a decision at that moment. It might be better just to introduce each one. And then if you decide to defer it to another day, you at least know what's being requested, and or you could make a decision tonight.
Everybody in agreement with that?
Yep.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. First one is splash pad. The first of 6 years, that was $75,000 also, and then $15,000 was redirected per council direction last year to batting cages. So you have $60,000 left in that. So really that, you have several options. You can fund the second 75, you can defer the second 75, or you can defer the second 75 and do something with the 60. That makes sense? Okay, so anything else to add on the splash pad, on the Parks Board recommendation, et cetera?
No, it's just something that they have looked at. It's something that they obviously requested for the second year in a row. They think that they would like to do something within the fences of the pool. It's estimated that they haven't done any detailed research because we didn't start a ton. We didn't start anything really other than some very preliminary work with the first amount, because until we got funded a little bit, there was no sense of getting, knee deep into a project, because it's estimated to be a $350,000, $400,000 type project. I have, unless you have questions.
So if that's going inside the parameters of the pool, I know we use TIF for the pool to build it. Could we use TIF for this?
We'd have to, that's gonna be a good
We haven't
question.
talked about that, have we?
That's probably a good question, Brad. You're right, we did use some TIF at the pool, and there was a resolution of action on the council at that time.
That was before I got on the council.
Yeah, well, it was a long time ago, 2000 and,
Pool opened in '07.
I got on
Yeah.
right after,
Well.
right at the end.
yeah. So, a lot, I'll just say this, a lot in TIF law has changed in 15 years, but we could certainly take a look, Brad. It's not a bad look.
I think with that in mind, I'd like to see if we can negate the second payment, and if we're able to reallocate that other $60,000 to try and mend the shortfall of requests here. That would be my appetite. Don't know what you guys think, but
That was on my list as well. Both of them, the 135.
so within the scope of how things are written, legalities and whatnot, are we able to reallocate those unspent funds and towards this year's budget? Okay.
You can, yeah. You don't need to make a motion on the 75, because that's already
I
on
suppose
the
it's-
outside looking in, but
Sure.
you could make a motion either now or later on the 60, redirecting that.
I'd make a motion to redirect the 60 back into the local option sales tax fund.
We have a motion. Is there support?
Support.
Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Hamel,
Aye.
Snyder,
Yeah,
Farahona,
Aye.
Hint,
Aye.
Dog park?
I mean, we don't have a motion for it, but I'm assuming that the 75,000 is also,
Yeah, you don't need a motion,
yeah.
because it
I
wasn't
mean,
included.
That being passed, I think the 75,000 is understood that that also is being redirected elsewhere within this. Okay, dog park.
Something the park board has been hearing a bunch about, they believe there's a demand for, within the community. The 15,000 would not build you a dog park, the 15,000 was to do research, get an area. I mean, it might build you something very, very simplistic, but it would not build you anything of any magnitude. So those would essentially be dollars to put a plan together, come up with an area, set a project, and then future askings. If you don't fund it, it just won't move. Or we'll have to find different fundings.
Given the shortfall, that was low on my priority list.
Agreed. I'm good with taking that out.
Anyone opposed to that?
I didn't hear what you said.
the dog park, I said that was low, given the shortfall that we were dealing with, the dog park was low on my list of priorities, and so I would say take it out of there.
I agree with that.
Okay?
So now we're to a $265,000 shortfall.
Another, well, what do you want to discuss next?
Cemetery.
That was 5,000, is that right? Yeah.
Todd hit on that yesterday,
Yeah.
that's the gravestone fixes.
I personally think that's something you need to keep up,
I agree with that.
because if you don't keep it up, just like everything else goes downhill, and then we're playing catch up.
It's even more expensive.
And, yeah.
Agreed. Anyone opposed to that idea? You would like to see it go? Okay, that's in at this point.
You want to put that in?
Yep, at this point. It survived the first round, we'll put it that way.
All right, so I'm trying to figure out our balances here. So 202,856. 202,856 minus 15,000 for golf course, minus $250 for Mid-Sioux, minus 3,300 for Upper Des Moines, minus 5,000 for cemetery equals 179,306, and then I add in plus 135,000 for splash pad. Right? Am I doing this right?
No.
What am I doing wrong?
What number did you start with? Did you start with the
Oh, yeah.
202,856?
I started with the 202,856.
Okay, then don't
Okay,
do
yeah,
anything
'cause
with the splash pad.
Yeah, I can't add those, can I?
You could add the 60 that we're not doing in
You're
the
right,
current
I'm
fiscal
sorry.
year.
Okay, so 262,856 minus 15,000 minus 250 minus 3,300 minus 5,000 cemetery. We have $239,306 to work with.
Yep, that's what I got.
Are you checking my math?
Yep.
Okay. 239,306.
It's longhand, I don't have my calculator here.
Well, if anyone should be able to do it, it would be our
So,
city clerk.
The 10 key.
So maybe I could just take a second here to explain the special event funding, because that affects several departments, and then we could have Chief Birch come up and talk briefly about police capital. Is that all right?
Yeah,
Okay.
otherwise I do have my fire hat on here, the quick attack vehicle. It's 18 months minimum build time. So you wouldn't be doing anything with that. You wouldn't have anything for 18 months before you could even build it. Get it delivered from one supplier,
Would that affect the $50,000 grant?
probably.
No, I think we've got 2 years left on
Okay,
it.
I would just throw that out there as we're talking, as we're narrowing it down. That's gonna be a year and a half out, and we haven't even started looking, so you're probably 2 years out.
So would you be having your fire hat on, be good with removing that from,
Again,
From
we'd
this
be-
year's-
We'd be putting it in next year's CIP again to ask for
Do you
it.
have to have something down?
But as long as you could start the work on it, get the preliminary stuff done, but your final payment, yeah, I don't know how the structure of payment is. I know the last truck, it was percentage down and then so much at the end, final payment. But I just want to throw that out there so we could have that as the discussion. Build time is 1.5 years out from the time you sign the contract.
What if we follow the plan or pattern of what we did with the splash pad, put half of it in this year and half next year?
That's very viable.
That was what I mean, I was just
Yeah.
running numbers, trying to make something work. That was one thing I had come up with, was just fund half of it, and either, I was not aware we could kick the can down the road.
Yeah, on the delivery side of it is,
You know, by, it's 225,000, but if we don't do something, we forego the $50,000 grant on it, as I understand. Is that
Yes.
correct?
I believe so.
Which to me doesn't make sense. That's some way I think we need to pursue it. If we could do it that way, half this year, half next year, and maintain that grant, then that makes sense.
And then we will have some reserve money from the townships and that we can also put a percentage of it together.
Because
And
that's
that
who
was-
it's really serving.
Yeah, and that's one of them, one of the issues that when we started negotiating with them, one of the points, we're gonna look towards a quick attack truck, which will benefit a lot of them.
Mhm.
You know, and then down the road, it was an additional tanker. So I'll just throw that out there for some information, why we're axing stuff. You know, this thing won't get built overnight, so it does buy us time down the road.
So what amount are you thinking for this year? Half or a third?
I mean, probably, yeah, half.
And what would we jeopardize?
By doing half?
Well, you
Well,
have,
I would like to look at all scenarios, okay? I understand we can do half. You can't do half and quit. You've got to do the whole thing. If we would not do anything at all, what would it jeopardize? There was talk of a grant.
Yeah, 50,000.
50,000.
approximately $50,000.
We'd lose 50,000.
Okay?
You know, it's,
So with that said, the true cost of this truck would be, is that 225,000 then? Is that how we're figuring it, if we're taking 50,000 off the top for USDA?
No, it costs 275. They're requesting 225 because of the grant.
Well, I'm looking at just the line item for the quick attack truck in the CIP is 175,000. So I don't know if that's pre-USDA money or post-USDA
It's
money.
probably
Pre, so that would
Yeah.
be the full, but Sam, didn't you say too that based on this request for consideration that the USDA money was kind of taken out of the top of the ledger? Like kind of balanced out that way?
I don't think it has been, because I think we have to upfront it to get our money back, but I think I miscommunicated to you, because I think somewhere I said to you that it was 275,000 when it's not, it's 175.
Because that's what's
So it'd be
listed now.
225 net.
Here's what-
277 includes other things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But somewhere, yeah, there's a...
Somewhere I have a typo, I don't know where it is.
It's 275, but we were asking 225 because of the $50,000 grant. That's on the second page of this here.
Well, I've got what's linked in the agenda, and then what's on this sheet here shows 175.
Yeah, I believe it's 175 was the original ask. That was in the CIP, yeah, 175.
Okay,
Minus
my
50.
question is the 175 before or after the grant money?
Sounds like it's before.
Before.
So then,
It would bring it to 125 once we get reimbursed.
okay.
I'm surprised it's that cheap.
That's the number from a couple years ago. So,
Oh, things always get cheaper, it's fine.
So at the moment, if my math is right, Angie, we have $428,500 worth of projects vying for $239,306 in funds.
I'm sorry, start again, what?
Four-
285?
No, yeah, $239,306 in available funds.
Mm-hmm.
And we have 133,000 plus 277 plus 18,500 vying for that, which is 428,500, if my math is right. Plus 277 plus
I wasn't
18,500.
figuring that, sorry. I was figuring what it'd be if we went with 125.
And what'd you come up with?
Negative $46,000. Not the special funding. I didn't do the special event funding. I was just doing police and fire capital.
And I know Chief Burke probably doesn't want to hear this. The other thought I had was instead of 2 vehicles, 1 this year, 1 next. Because they were at 52,000 apiece, is that correct, roughly? That gets us,
It does get us close, but like I said, I hadn't figured in the special event funding. We may have to dip into reserves if you wish to do that.
Now, the special events funds, that one, kind of, I have concerns with that one because when RAGBRAI comes to town, they have to pay for the extra police force, the extra law enforcement. I think if you have an event above and beyond the city's events, I think that's some of the responsibility of the people that are hosting the event to take on that burden. Because in the past, like I said, RAGBRAI, when they've come to town, they've had to flip that whole bill for all the extra costs that's occurred for that event.
but it's a little different yet in that, number one, RAGBRAI is not a Sheldon entity. They don't have their roots here. And then secondly, rides and village, they are funding a good chunk of it. This is just supplementing what they already have into it.
That's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, but I mean, that, I understand that, but I see it as not an apples to apples
I
for
do.
those reasons.
I do.
Sam, quick sidebar here. I'm trying to make sure my math is up to date. I'm showing an unfunded balance of $189,000 that we have yet to try and figure out. I took $339,193.58, subtracted $75,000 from that total, subtracted $15,000 from that total, and then subtracted an additional $60,000 from that total, since that would be money that would come across to lower the deficit. That would give me $189,193.
No, I don't think so. I don't think
Am I
you got it.
calculating
I
that
don't
wrong?
think you're doing the 60,000 right. So, the negative 339,194, yes, it includes all those asks. But I think you need to add 60,000.
But, so, if our total deficit is $340,000,
Uh-huh.
we're subtracting 75 from that to lower. We subtract 15,000 from that for the dog park,
Yeah.
so that lowers the deficit. And then let's subtract another 60,000 to lower the deficit yet, right? Because since we're pooling dollars in, that would lower our deficit.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
So now that puts our deficit at $189,000 that we have to try and find.
Well, Angie helped me out with this, but I think if you look at the arrow on my big sheet here, so you have 202,856 for your estimated balance. The sum of all of those numbers below in parentheses is $542,050. So you add that number and the 202 together, that's where you get the 339. So let me think through this a minute.
Well, that's got to be, because you've got 277 and 133 here. So that would be over 339. So that must be a running tally.
If you take the 542,050 minus the 339,194, that gives you that 202,856.
So I think your math is correct.
Russ, write that down.
I guess. So, Mayor, I guess my suggestion would be is take a few moments, while Angie and I are double checking the math here.
Okay.
Take some time here to listen to a rundown of those 3 line items. I can take the special event funding and briefly rattle that off, because I helped put that together. And then police and fire can take a few minutes. And then if we run out of time, we can finish another time.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. Special event funding. Everybody who's spoken has made really good points on this. This $18,500 would not be a transfer to these organizations. It would be to go to these various departments, which would include Public Works, which is mainly funded by a road use tax, and it would also go to SCAT and PD, to their funds to help for the costs that they assume while these events are in town. So you don't have to do this at all. There's a reason why this is in the unfunded request. This has come up in various conversations over the last 2 years, so I took a little bit of time. It wasn't very difficult to put together a spreadsheet so that you would know what these costs were. So it's a good budget planning tool if nothing else. So it has not been a waste of time.
So if we take it out, we're still going to do the same amount of work in terms of these events that are planned for the next year. The police will still be doing their work, SCAT will still be manning the out at Rice Fest and Village Northwest and stuff. I mean, it's
Right.
not like...
It still comes out, so it'll come out of their individual budgets and not out of local option sales tax.
Why don't you just just have them increase their budget by $3,000 or $4,000 and take it out of the general fund. And then don't worry about it. It's an operating expense,
That's
part
what
of
we've
their
been
whole
doing
budget.
all along, right? Up to this point, that's how we've been...
In essence,
In
yeah,
essence, that's
but now
what
we
we're
can
doing.
make it a line item.
Yeah.
But even make
I-
a line item, give them X amount of number, adjust their budget and put a line item as special events. Between the 3 of them, they get half the pot. And take it out of the general fund.
I know that SCAT, I believe, had been, all right, that had you done a bill for? Yeah. And you would continue to do that, or you would not do that if this was approved?
You sent them a bill, did they pay the bill? Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Give them each
Leave this
$6,000,
out
add
and
it
move
to their
on?
budget.
I don't think
To Brad's point, I think that's kind of what we've been doing all along. but
Yeah, so just,
So no change.
Their budget
and-
may go up a little bit.
yeah, put an extra $6,000 towards their budget and
Public
make it,
Works, that would be the 3. Public
Yeah, make
Works,
it special
SCAT, and
events.
police. Those 3?
Yeah.
That's the ones,
Special
the
events.
departments you're talking
and,
about, correct?
and roll it into the general fund.
No, I can't.
Into,
No, I can't.
what's that?
You can't transfer general fund
Into,
Road use tax.
Oh.
Maybe a third would have to come from law.
to figure it out, I'm just saying, she can't make
No.
but even if you would Yeah, somehow put it in one of their budgets that they can use special events or something.
They can figure that out.
Yeah. But I just see it as a general budget item, not.
All right, Scott, it's time to make your pitch.
So I kind of covered some of this yesterday briefly. If you look this year, we don't have, or this upcoming year, we don't have a whole lot of projects. One of the ones we talked about was the bathroom update. I don't know if you've seen our bathrooms, they're pretty disgusting. It's not a must, it's more of a, it's a want.
What does that
Our
mean?
bathrooms,
Oh,
they're pretty disgusting. So,
all the more reason I don't want to see it.
yeah, I mean, they're just outdated. They're outdated.
Just, not to cut you off, but I just
Yeah,
having
go
this
ahead.
thought, wouldn't this, if it's a building upgrade, wouldn't that fall under, the whatever, however you fund the building, maintenance here?
It can. Yep,
So it wouldn't necessarily have to be a CIP item?
no, it wouldn't have to be, no.
There you go, just save you $12,000.
That's that's building and maintenance. To me, that's building and maintenance. That's
Right.
everyday operation.
Right.
That should go to a general fund.
I would agree.
There's only so much general fund, you just slide everything and say general.
No?
Nor can we fund it all with law. The dilemma why we're having the discussion.
Just kind of robbing from Peter to pay Paul.
That's right.
Sounds like it, but
This has been the slush
we'll get
fund
there.
for years.
You said it, pull this.
Right, making
We're
it,
just trying to
it's like
fit
you,
this item.
There might be money in the ambulance fund.
Your counselors just lost bar support.
So some of the items are thick panels, that would either soft body armor or hard plate like that. I imagine that'll actually be smaller than that number because we used our, I don't have my sure, and then also we did get reimbursement on, what do we get, 50%?
on bulletproof vests, I
Yeah.
think it was 50%.
So that probably won't be that high. Thing with the equipment upgrades. I've done a bunch this year, and then part of that was USDA too. I think I've almost got it all done, so I besides maintenance, I probably won't need a third of that, just because it's worked out cheaper than I thought it would. And actually, I saved 3 of the old computers we had in our cars, and we're just gonna reuse those. So, as far as the squad cars, if you guys remember, we ordered one for the K-9 unit already, knowing that we were going to have to order it probably 8 months in advance. I got a grant to pay for the majority of the equipment in that one, which would probably be $10,000 to $15,000. So that number itself will be smaller when we're done. And then that was to add a second vehicle. We're currently at 5 units. That would add a 6th. And so what the thought was is that we have 4 officers living in town right now. They would be allowed to have a take-home car, and then the way we run 2 sides would be using that car. Only reachable. Your car's not fun. But I also see now that we're up to, it's still, and as you get that. So there's kind of a little bit of a savings in that, because the goal is to get to 8 vehicles, and then every year I have it in there, 62,000.
But you have grant.
USDA grant for 2, and then I got a grant for K-9 equipment for
A little longer to get to that 8.
I mean, they stay in town. You could either leave them in town, or we could come up with some kind of an agreement of paying mileage, whatever. I know some of the hiccup is insurance. I know a lot of places that do it. There's got to be a way to do it.
It's about a little bit maybe, and that's what we do.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, there, you're 18 months enough. Fire gear, I want life parts, so once you get dirty, you can come back, you can wash it out of service. Because cancer is pagers, that's just an ongoing deal. Doors, bottoms are rusted, they slap in the wash machine, extractor for a fire. Both of this, we've been doing it now for, we've been for, half. The building maintenance of 15 times, we had built, and at a low point was 54 degrees in the building.
We budgeted. Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
yep, sorry. Didn't
I was
finish.
gonna finish that, but that, out of putting money into, and then the last item is, the ongoing, the start, and talked about it here in the past, if you're looking at building needs, architectural service, with the emergency services bills, police, fire, EMA, or just start the preliminary stuff. No idea, get basic sizes, no idea what that would cost us. So,
I guess I have a question, replacement. Does that include air packs?
no.
And that's a huge amount.
That is, take it out from, and
Quick Attack's 175.
Okay.
but we're not even close to, we haven't even looked, you know. Yeah, I mean, have no problems if we cut part of the